going to jump straight into the panel right now. We have a very interesting panel coming on board to answer questions with regards to everything that we've heard so far from the people management, development, the pandemic fatigue, and mental issues. So let me quickly begin to introduce, and I would love for our panels to turn on their video as well so everyone can see you. Lubna is actually an expert in organization design and people development. She has almost 2 decades of experience all over the Middle East, specifically in the UAE and KSA. And she has led corporate governance and organizational design with the Ministry of National Guard Health Affairs. So welcome on board, Lubna. I also have Dipti. Dipti is actually a HR advisor and consultant. She's working with Crowd Doing and Match for Action Foundation. She is one of the founding members of the SHRM's business operations in the Middle East. She has over 12 years of experience globally and within the Middle East in enterprise and government industries. So please do welcome. And she's worked with a number of companies as well, from what I know, all over Asia, all over the Middle East. So welcome her on board. We also have Manish. Manish is the founder and director of Engaged HR Services. He actually has a very unique exposure to the regional dynamics, including negotiating and influencing, but he has strong skills around the employee life cycle, which includes the onboarding, the induction, probation, performance management. And I know we had a few questions around this, so I'm going to certainly start to pose that around here. And overall, Manish comes with over 16 years of experience in HR and business. And I also have on board Deepak. Deepak Malati is actually the head of HR and training from Splash. He also has over 16 years of experience in HR training, organizational development, and cost optimization. He's actually an award-winning HR professional. So this is a great mix. And you've already spoken to Sanya, and we also have Gina joining us in. So thank you so much, guys. And without further ado, I'm going to actually jump straight into one of the first questions that we kind of received, which is, the job scene within the pandemic. There's obviously, how do you go about handling it, especially when you have a lot of anxiety during this process? I think I'll open this up, Manish, first. I'm going to put you on the spotlight with this entire piece, but please feel free to chip in. I know this is a very important topic, starting right from the front, just with people going in and out. How do you recommend that people handle the job situation during the pandemic?
Thank you, Sindhu. I think the very clearly the one simple message or the mantra here today is patience. Because in today's scenario, it's very important for all of us as an applicant or as an employee to assess what is the opportunity I'm looking for or what I'm going to leave, because that's what is going to be a good insight in terms of your transition from whether you should move ahead now or not. But then pretty much opportunities are there, market is opening up, but have some patience around that. That's my answer to it. Thank you.
Perfect. I think I'm just going to follow through, but if someone wants to add in on that, and I know Dr. Gina, you also have mentioned a lot around this, especially when someone has lost a job, looking for a new job. How do they handle that stress and anxiety going between jobs? Patience is actually a great way to talk about it. But as I'm speaking, I know there is a question around this as well as to how to control your mind and your thoughts to focus and direct on what you need to do in terms of getting that job in.
So sometimes these thoughts that you get are so intrusive and you are not under control, especially we are going through kind of disorders. So these thoughts are usually comes overwhelmed only when you bottle it up. The advice is to talk it out. When you start talking and venting out your feeling to your near ones, dear ones, or the people whom you trust, most of the thoughts comes well under control.
I think we recruit I don't know, we get around thousands of applications every week. See, one of the things for the candidates to know is there are a lot of roles available. So first of all, they need to relax, right? There's a lot of roles available. Currently, as we speak in my organization, there are hundreds of roles available. As long as the candidate can identify which role they're going after and show their value to the role, I don't think there's any need for them to get worried or stressed. To be fair, there are enough roles because in many countries, the markets have opened up. Some industries are still affected, but many countries, the markets have opened up, the business is back. It is not certainly the 2020 condition. So I think candidates should be aware, don't get stressed. There are enough roles available. Just focus on what you need so that if they're going to send to all the 100 companies, 100 applications and expect a reply, they might get stressed. But if they focus, and I've guaranteed because we are sending offers every day from a realistic this side, I can tell you there are enough roles for everybody there.
Thank you so
That's
much.
interesting. You said that, Deepak. I'm probably going to answer this in two different sides of the same coin, right? One is from the organization side, as to when they are opening up this hiring, they are always looking for, and now more so, right? They are looking for the right PO fit, or they are looking for the right culture fit. So it's not just having the right competencies, but then I think the search is more towards, and again, Manish and Deepak and Lubna, you can verify this, but I think it's more important now to make sure that the organizations are working in reduced costs and limited budgets, that they find that right fit. And I think from the job seekers end, it's normal to feel overwhelmed. We are still facing that uncertainty. But I think what I have seen in my experience is when I look at especially HR professionals and the professionals who are reaching out and applying for jobs, that they are just pushing in their applications and then get overwhelmed when there are no responses. When there are automated responses, that's what also makes you feel like, okay, there's not a real person responding to my application. So what is that? But I think just breaking these job search tasks down into little manageable tasks, I think it makes you less overwhelmed, and you can just get your hands around it quickly.
Some really good inputs in there. I agree with you. Sorry, Lubna.
Something I would like to add is be creative, because the usual walk-ins or getting lost in the recruitment portals algorithm is usual. So be creative, get in out there, because the new walk-in is your LinkedIn, your social media platform. So stay away from social media for the wrong things, but stay in it, like LinkedIn, be in it, write articles, make yourself seen with your favorite employers. So this is one area you couldn't be seen, because there are no longer walk-ins. Nobody will receive your hard copy or hard copy of your resume in the HR departments anymore. So be creative. See, this is some of them. Network online, be in some training programs, get out there, be with other people online. This is just not the traditional way of job hunting anymore, isn't it?
Excellent point. So, I mean, I'm going to now steer the conversation to the other side in terms of when you identified a new employee. Obviously, the ecosystem is now changed. We're not always physically available to welcome new employees to come on board. So I want to understand from you, what are the few things that are important for organizations to ensure that their employees' needs have been met, or at least being monitored as we go forward? Maybe I think, Lubna, I'm gonna ask you again. I know that you have a lot of expertise in the entire organization field of handling employee experience. So please do tell us.
So the first day matters, I would say. So I would just resonate from my very recent experience as a onboardee myself. So the day goes like, the first day I'm on call with all my team members. I have this amazing team. And then this is a Zoom call. We had our snacks on the more closer team. Everyone is introduced. Remember those days where the HR would walk you into all the key people's offices and then introduce you to your new job, take you to your desk. So I think things have become easier for the HR now. So you have this one Zoom call, make sure it happens on the first day. See everyone is there. You introduce each other. So much, I would say, reals or dirhams saved, but keep your knowledge management library ready like a package for your onboarding, so that you have things easier now. So put in some effort to have the content, company information, your role requirements, the first, my first accountability, have them, your knowledge management package ready for your new employee, but have this first day meeting, like introduce, it's less expensive now, so do it right. This is from me. I'm sure others would want to add.
Lubna, in fact, I would take a step further before onboarding. In fact, at an applicant stage, because this is what I have experienced in last 6 months as well, the managing the whole applicant pool itself is so important, because they are not, they are in the transition. They don't have a dedicated HR or someone to talk to about this transition. So the whole experience, which currently is limited to the Zoom onboarding, could be further extended to a pre-onboarding or at an applicant management stage. And that's where the tools like, which today I strongly recommend is Net Promoter Score. If today, how many companies are, they go ahead and take an applicant pulse, that is really going to help.
That's true. Very, very well said. Yes, I completely agree on that. Yeah, getting that pre-onboarding experience interview or getting the pulse of that could be an area we could look at. Yeah, definitely. And why not? You can give that pre-boarding package or make that experience, throw in some gamification, introducing your company. You're losing out on so many things. You don't get your kit anymore. So, yeah. Is there someone?
Yeah, so I think Lubna touched on the first day, Manish touched on the previous day. So I think what has really worked, and from a retail perspective, and because we onboard a lot of employees from UK, from wherever in the world, this is just session, because as we are opening up, what we found out, what happens in a Zoom call is you are mostly speaking to someone or a group of people maximum. You don't get the full visibility of the organization and the leadership at very angles. Because in the past, like Lubna said, you can walk into multiple departments, multiple stakeholders, meet a lot of people from the top to the bottom. So what we have done recently is, and what has worked really is smaller offsites, where of course, with social distancing, we have approved budgets for smaller offsites where the leaders of the department or the company take people in groups, the new people with social distancing, and then talk about the company from a future point of view. So whatever is the strategy of the department, whatever is the strategy of the person required. So offsites in a smaller buckets have started helping, because we can't do full offsite, but smaller buckets offsites and a budget for that has really helped in this, because employees still need to feel they're part of a larger organization. So that's something that we have done as a post-COVID strategy.
That's really good. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
That's true. I was just agreeing with it.
Great. I mean, I want to follow through with that as well, right? Just in terms of what organizations are doing today. What is the one thing, as a company, how do you understand what your employees, if your employees' needs are actually met? What is it that they're really feeling, especially when it comes to their well-being and their mental health? I want to understand, what is it based on your experience that you are doing, or that you recommend companies need to be doing in order to grasp that? Maybe Deepti, I'll start off with you on this.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks. That's a question. So passionate for me. That's a topic. And listening to, I think when Sanya said earlier before about burnout, right, especially during this pandemic time, and the percentage of employee burnout that we have seen in the past year, I think has been huge, as per the reports. I think, and connecting it to the previous question as well, was onboarding and then understanding employee needs. I think the important point that we have to focus on is alignment with your company's vision, mission, and values. I think when we start with that core from both ends, whether it's from the organization's end as well as the employees who are seeking out your organization to work and give their talent to that. When the alignment comes in place, I think half of your battle is won, right? Because, and there is somebody who was even asking a question earlier, is consistency. So it's also important when you're looking for needs of your employees or your future staff or your current staff. I think communication and being very consistent with your messaging is also very, very important. So communication doesn't go just because the leader is saying something, but it rather also means listening, encouraging and providing, and even acting on that feedback becomes very important. And also as an employee, being clear and identifying why you are being a part of that company, and as a way giving that feedback back to your leader. And again, it all starts from the leadership, right? So I think identifying those needs, and I would say underline realizing and identifying that this uncertainty is not yet over, right? We are still adapting, organizations are still working on assessing those needs. So these needs are something that's just going to continue for a while, and how do you adapt to make sure that you find that alignment?
Excellent. I think you touched based on a point that was actually a question from one of our attendees around everyone says the key to success is consistency. And the question here is, we want to understand, what are your thoughts on that key to consistency, especially when it comes to things around personal development, mental, emotional, and physical health, to keep this in check. What are your thoughts around this? Do we still really feel that the key to success is consistency, or is that a changing norm? I want to understand from everyone here.
Right, if I can take that. So I think the definition of consistency matters here. Now, I'm presuming that a lot of people are not saying consistency means coming at 9 and finishing something by 10. I think consistency of having a communication strategy. See, because in this world, there's never going to be a 2 days or a month going to be same, at least for the next 1-2 years. It's going to be constant. The business are going to continuously adapt. If you have a communication strategy, which is consistent, that means getting feedback, giving feedback through any avenues, be it a Zoom call, through a survey, through great places to work. If you have that as a consistent pillar, then everything falls into place. Because even if it's talent development, tomorrow the requirement would be, if attrition high, to develop some other talent. If it's talent management, to engage people to higher productivity. So the communication is very key. That needs to be consistent. So I'm just speaking on what Deepti said. In these times, communication is key. The strategy should be consistent. If that is fine, I wouldn't so much say that you have to bring all your strategies consistent, because it will not happen. But have this communication strategy straight, and everything else should fall into place.
I think, Deepak, I sound that because the consistency in communication, and also there's a measure to it. Because if we are measuring it timely, and a lot of companies are doing it. I mean, I still remember right from my Wipro days, or with Landmark or Task. There is a way to measure these consistency, whether through employee pulse on a daily basis, or a monthly basis, or a 6-monthly basis. But that's the strategy which is at employees' end, will work, and also benefits as an employer.
True.
Yeah, and it brings accountability too, right? Like I think consistency also brings in that need of accountability.
I mean, this is really good conversation. I think what's kind of coming in line with my next question, which is around, and I want to hear from everyone here around, what is that one recommendation that you would make, to companies, to the teams, that they must do in this new world, that would help the company in handling their employees? I want to understand from you, what is that one thing? Because we see there's a lot of things that are changing today. Sure, the landscape is changing, the business is changing, the way we handle things. We're no longer doing this face-to-face, we're sitting on a Zoom call. So I want to understand, what is that one thing that you would recommend from your side that is an absolute requirement to handle this new situation that we're in? So maybe I think, Lubna, I'll put you on the spotlight for this one.
So what I would do is I'll continue from the last question, because something to touch upon the communication. Yeah, we are looking at consistency, but each employee responds differently to each probe. So what we need to, and during this difficult times, the only thing which will keep the team together is communication. So where you have different, you face it every day, you have people responding to communication differently. So yeah, you have a consistent strategy, but then you have to identify, maybe ask a simple question, which mode works for you, and then you keep an element of customization. Probably, yeah, you may have a group call, but some of them may want to have that one-to-one call. Yeah, we are not talking about face-to-face interviews anymore. Going forward, because it's not just about virtual, the most important thing we have to look at is coming back safety. So now, maybe in 6 months or 1 year, people have to come back, at least 75%. The statistics say like 25% to 50%, somewhere else I read, are going to stay at home. Like some companies are going to evolve. So you have to come back to your headquarters and decide how you're going to repurpose the whole area, your people, so gathering areas, your doors, your cabinets. How are you going to repurpose your spaces? I think that you have to start thinking about it now. How safe do you feel to go back to your offices? You can take a pulse about that. What will stop you from coming back to office without fear? Like, what would contribute for you to do that? So just touching upon some points, like I thought would future forward. And then you may even have to consider, now I'm talking about the physical location. Now, what about your job itself? Could you design it differently? You have to keep your 30% at home, and you have to keep your 70% in the office, or vice versa. How you would redesign each job. We have to come out of traditional jobs, redesign them to fit for people's nature, where they like to belong, what kind of job remains at home, what kind of jobs can come back to offices, how you would redesign them. You can think about recreating or merging, consolidating, separating. So these are all, I don't think it can last an hour if you can keep going on this topic, but I'd like to hear from others.
It's really good to know the thought process that your organization is in resonance with what everybody else is saying. Deepak, I'm gonna hand that over, the same question to you, because I know you work in a large organization as well. Yeah.
Right. So one of the things that happened during COVID times is a lot of employees have taken self-empowerment. They didn't ask for empowerment, they become self-empowered because they had to deliver. And one thing, if you're asking what should companies do different, one of the key things they should do is, and we have been doing on the journey, is any more micromanagement is not the norm. So companies should start focusing on the targets and the results, and leave it to the employees who actually supported you during the COVID times to deliver your targets or goals. I don't think any more micromanagement works, because employees should be flexible with work from home, office, focus on the targets, be on top of the targets if they are focusing in. But I think micromanagement somewhere between micro and macro management should be the norm for the companies. Because if you're going to micromanage and people are going to spend time at home, and also we touched about the subject of mental stress, because lines in work from home, you're working every time, right? There's no blurring of lines between office and workspace, office and home space. So I think one suggestion for the companies is let your employees are self-empowered, focus on your goals and targets and support them, achieve them, then micromanagement is my suggestion, apart from the health part. Yeah.
That's a really good way to put it, of course, because there's no way, I mean, when we're all working from home, there's no micromanaging this. It has to be in their own comfort zone. Over to you, Manish, on the same question with this.
Sure. So my recommendation here is we have been so far, majorly focusing on the intrinsic existing employee. I think one approach could be taking care of your entrants, the new entrants, as well as taking care of people who are going to leave you. Because these two areas are where they are also going to be your future brands, because they are experiencing your brand even if they are not shortlisted during your interviews or even when they leave. So those experiences must be taken care. That's the new way of working. I see it for employers.
Excellent. And Deepti, I would like to hear from you as well.
So maybe I may not have one recommendation, but I'm quickly going to touch upon, say, a few points that I had in my head for this. So I think in the new world of work, first and foremost important thing is being flexible as an organization and ensuring that creating that safe working environment becomes a priority, since some of them are coming back to work. And there are a lot of organizations who are making this return to work very innovative. So I just saw that Ford, for example, has come up with a flexible working hybrid working model where people are working from home most of the times, but they are only coming to work when they have teamwork to do. So that way you're still encouraging that teamwork. So how can you be as an organization innovative for this return of work? We have started vaccination drives globally. A lot of countries have started it. So how are you making sure that you are taking care of that requirement where are you giving out vaccination holidays? Are you holding those drives on your premises of the organization for employees and their families? So just to make sure that you're creating that environment. The second one is to make sure that you're focusing on trust and empathy. And this is also another point that Sanya covered during her presentation, which was so important, right? And this is something that doesn't start only within your workforce, but rather comes from the top. So this trust and empathy shouldn't just be a talking point, rather something which you can lead by example, by the leadership. And more importantly, since people are working remotely from right now from the remote offices, are you celebrating success for those people? And oftentimes as leaders or organizations, we forget it. And the third thing is to make sure that are you recognizing or are you giving still those growth plans to your top performers? And one of the options is there may not be those growth plans available right now, but are you then focusing on internal mobility? Are you focusing on employee engagement? Are you lending that listening ear? And are you taking those appropriate actions? So I think instilling that empathy and flexibility across your workforce, right from the C-suite to line staff, is what my recommendation would be.
That's some really good points that you covered. And I know, Sanya, you're on the panel as well, and I haven't asked you this question, and I know you've spoken through it. And I really want to hear, just listening to everyone else, what do you think, is that one thing, the same question in terms of what companies should do, Norm?
Yeah, there's so many. I think that everybody else brought up so many incredible points. And I think just going after these points, because they're so fresh in my mind, and I really agree. And especially, I guess, in continuation with recognition and career development, that's something, Sindhu, if you remember, we asked in our survey a question pro for those exact reasons, is that it changed so much. And it changed, if you think about, we're all working from everywhere. We're not in offices, we haven't been in the last year. And so one of the questions was that maybe sometimes spontaneous learning that happens when you're just next to somebody, do people still feel like they're learning? Do they still feel like they're being developed? Because one of the fears, what I talked about a lot with the capacity, a lot of assignments, is that we don't want to forget to develop people, because that's one thing that we hear time and time again is everybody really wants is to grow, is to learn new things, is to feel like they're better today than the day before. And so that's one thing we asked our employees, hey, do you still feel good about your career development? Do you still feel good about your progression? And one of the really interesting things that actually came out And an open-ended question that we didn't even particularly ask about was recognizing and celebrating those wins. And so what people said is, hey, I actually feel okay. I still feel like I'm learning a lot, but I am curious, are people progressing? Are people being promoted? What are my chances in the future? And actually a few people in their open-ended comments provided recommendations to celebrate it even more. Good. Can we make it more visible for everyone? Because not only does that make that person feel really good, but it gives everybody else more hope, more drive, more passion. And so actually as a result of that, we started very simple where we created a wins channel on Slack where we recognize those different things and we celebrate, and it's so active and it's so beautiful to see. So anyways, those would just be the two things that I would build off, but I think the recommendations were really great. So I'll end at that.
Thank you so much, Sonia. I do have one last important question, just in the interest of time, and I'm actually going to target Dr. Gina for this. I don't know if she's dropped off. I don't see her on the video, but yeah, there you go. The question is more around, we still do understand, and going back to the entire concept of the fact that people are going through different levels of mental issues. How do you as a leader and a co-worker address this? So it's a twofold question, because as a manager or as a leader, how do you really address and support your employees? And as a colleague who understands that you have a team player, a team worker who's going through something, how do you support them in ensuring that they're successful and they have the right support in place? I really want to hear your view and your advice on this, because I know everybody wants to hear this, because if we're not going through it, there is someone certainly next to us who is, and what do we do best to help?
Thank you, Sindhu, for the question. And it's a very important question, because everybody wants to avoid the topic or discussion about mental health. See, first and foremost, like we use these terms so loosely, like we call crazy, we call people nuts. So, and as a result, the stigma associated with psychiatric issue is just increasing. I have instances wherein patient comes and walks in and he says that, yeah, I have come because my friends think that I need to come here. They think I'm crazy. See, actually, you don't need to be crazy to have any psychiatric issue. Right. To have a lot of stress, which you're not able to manage your day-to-day life, wherein it's not natural than you when you previously are. Your mood is changing. That's all can be treated and can be recovered. As I said, that as it is your lung, heart, liver, that's how is your brain. So anything that goes wrong here can affect the way your mood is, the way your thinking is. So as an organization, it has to be, first of all, open to this form of conversation. Because when it is mental health, it's like, hush, hush, come to the room, we'll talk about it. No, it has to be an open discussion. Like other illnesses, this is also accepted. So the acceptance, as soon as your employees feel, they will come to you to talk. And this will happen when you are very casually discussing about it. Time and again, if you are having a talk regarding it, having an open discussion about depression, anxiety, and whatsoever about mental illness and stress, it is a natural process that we all go through, and they need to understand that we all go through it. It's just by hiding it, it's not going to solve the issue. So openness is important at an organization level. So your heads can, and also, like, we Google so much about so many variety about things, about politics, weather, COVID, vaccine, everything. Come on, start having research on mental health issues. We all know what happens when we have a heart attack. We all know what are the symptoms when you have pneumonia. People are researching about it. They know the diagnosis to treatment. But about mental health, we barely want to see it because we are not the one who could have it. That's what we believe. It's all for somebody else. So keeping yourself educated, keeping yourself knowing this is important, because you will be able to identify your colleagues, your friends, your family members, and first and foremost, identify that. If you're able to identify, you can have an open discussion.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Gina. I wanted to wrap that up there, but I know I have one more question on the chat, and I certainly want to take it from Rita. One of the main concerns for employees' expectations is increments and promotions, right? But with the pandemic, it is a challenge for certain organizations to incorporate that given the year that everyone is going through. So the question really is, how do we empathize with this concern? I will let anyone take that question and let us know how you feel about, yeah.
So I can take that query because I get that constantly. I think we'll have to slightly wait it out. I think if you're going to compare yesterday with today, it's getting better. Tomorrow is going to be far better. So those employees who are adding value, organizations are looking for simple one thing, employees who can add value to them. And I guarantee you that they'll be taking care now or tomorrow for sure. It's just that.
Oops, I think we lost Deepak there. I think we all just froze there, hoping it wasn't our connection, but it wasn't. So, all right, we'll wait for Deepak to join back and address that. If anybody else wants to, yeah, sorry.
I think he's back.
Oh, okay.
But meanwhile, while he starts talking, I can say that, there was an important point that Dr. Gina mentioned is visualizations, right? And I think when you go into that positive area of visualizing yourself at that career level, I think, like Deepak said, wait it out and you get there. So
it's a very good point. Deepak, I'll let you continue. I think
sorry about that. I'm just referring to it's a fact, but I want to assure you, if the company and organization is really, some companies might be really taking advantage of the situation. I want to let you know there's no, sometimes they want to make people work twice, but majority of the organizations, like I've known, it's a matter of time. They have the cycle coming, they have plans in place. The budgeting is starting for that. And I can see a lot of things happening on the employer side because they want to retain their talent, right? So they're not going to be, last year was a lot about cost, but I guarantee you just wait it out. Your time is going to come very, very soon.
Thank you. Absolutely. That's very good to hear. And especially coming from leaders in your organization itself. I want to thank each and every one of you to be on this panel. This has been extremely informative for all of us. I think we have all learned from each other, which is what makes it the most amazing part of being on it. So thank you so much for joining in. And certainly if there are any other questions, we would love to pass this on to you, and we'll also monitor the chat to bring that forward. So with that.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thanks everyone. It's been a pleasure. Same here.
Thank you.